Hello everyone and welcome to Chess with M&M. Today we will see so beautiful game happened in 2019 between the world champion Magnus Carlsen and the most strongest Chinese player Ding Liren. And also Ding Liren is world rank 3 in chess. He comes after Magnus Carlsen and Fabiano Caruana. So yes, this is Ding Liren, one of the most strongest players in the world. So let's see what happened in this exciting game. Ding Liren with the white pieces and Carlsen with the black pieces. Ding Liren opened the game by d4. Queen pawn opening, knight to f6 by Carlsen, c4, e6, knight to f3 and d5 hitting the center. Knight to c3 by Ding Liren and now bishop to b4. Bishop to b4 bending the knight and also preparing to castles. Bishop to g5 by Ding Liren, bending the knight too and also developing the bishop. So here after bishop to g5, Carlsen played d capture on c4. Now d capture on c4, it's not the most played move in this position. Alright, the most played move here is h6, sorry, our knight b to d7, and then castles. But at d capture on c4, it's not the best move. It's a good move, but it's not the most played move in this position. Now here d capture on c4, he accepted the queen gambit by d capture on c4, and the idea by the queen gambit or by d4 and c4 is offering the c pawn for the d pawn to playing e4 and having a nice control of the center's squares. So after d capture on c4 here, immediately Ding Liren pushed e4, grabbing the center and also opening the way for the bishop to attacking the c4 pawn. So for this season, b5 by Carlsen, b5 to guarding his c5 pawn, and a4 by Ding Liren. a4 I want to capture and then capture on c4. Now here Carlsen can play something like c6, but the problem is after a capture b5, c capture b5, here the white has e5. Now e5 threatening the knight, you cannot move your knight because it's bending with your queen, so the black here has to play h6, and after bishop back to h4, he has to play g5, and after knight capture, h capture, bishop capture. Now this position, the engine says it's equal, alright, but this position it's uncomfortable for the black, because the black, it's unsafety on the e8. You cannot castles now on the queen side because after this pawn push, the queen side is so weak, and also you cannot castles on the king side because you don't have g pawns anymore. So for this season here, we're here after a4, here Carlsen played the best move in this position, and it is c5. c5 trying to destroying the strong center which the white has, and okay, a capture on b5 by Ding Liren, c capture on d4 by Carlsen, knight capture on d4, and now h6 kicking this bishop. Bishop back to e3, knight capture on e4 by Carlsen with a double attack on the knight on the c3, so queen to c2 by Ding Liren, attacking the knight and also defending the c3 square. Now here if you count the pawns, we will see the black has 6 pawns while the white has 5 pawns, alright? But there is a huge difference between each players about the development. Now here the black developed 2 pieces while the white developed his both knights and also his bishop and also his queen, and also he opened the same a file, the same open a file for his rook on the a1. And also the pawn on the c4 is so weak, and probably the white will capture it in the next moves. So for this season, after queen to c2 here, Carlsen played bishop to b7, developing another piece and also defending his knight on the e4. Bishop capture on c4, queen to c7, give me your bishop, queen to b3 guarding the bishop and also threatening the bishop on the b4, bishop capture on c3, pawn capture on c3, and now castles by Carlsen. Castles by Ding Liren, and now rook to c8 by Carlsen. Rook to c8, threatening the bishop on the c4. Bishop to d3, going away from the threat, and now knight to c5. Knight to c5, making fault between the queen and the bishop on the d3. And okay, queen back to b1, knight capture on d3, queen capture on d3, and here Carlsen played knight to d7 to develop his knight. Of course here, capturing on c3, it doesn't work, because after queen capture and rook capture, rook f to c1 is a strong move. Why? After rook capture and rook capture, here the back has problems with the development. because he cannot develop his knight on the c6 or the a6 squares. The only square to develop the knight is the d7. If you play something like knight to d7, then rook to c7 will be deadly. Rook to c7 threatening the bishop and also the knight on the d7. So bishop to c8 only move to protecting each pieces, but the problem is after bishop to c8, then knight to c6 comes. Knight to c6 threatening the pawn on the a7 and then the bishop on the c8, and then I will grab your knight on the d7. So for this season here, we're here. After queen capture on d3, here basically Carlsen played knight to d7, developing his knight, and he said, okay, we're putting up pressure on the c2 square, so in the future we will be able to capture in the future. So after knight to d7, here Ding Liren played queen back to e2. Queen back to e2, he want to shifting his queen to the king side. Now here if you try to play something like rook f to c1, trying to protecting your c pawn, then knight to e5 will be a strong move. Knight to e5 threatening the queen, and after queen back to e2, then knight to c4 comes. And this knight on the c4 is so strong knight. It's a monster on the c4. So for this season here, rook f to c1 doesn't seem like a good idea. So for this season here, basically Ding Liren played queen back to e2. Queen back to e2, he wants to shift his queen to the king side to attack the king on the g8. Knight to b6 by Carlsen, developing his knight, and now queen to g4. Queen to g4, threatening bishop capture on h6. You cannot capture by the pawn because it's bending with your king. So king to h7, going away from the file, and now bishop to f4 by Ding Liren. Bishop to f4, threatening the queen on the c7. Queen to c5 by Ding Liren. Now here, by Carlsen. Here Carlsen didn't capture on the c6, c3, sorry, queen capture on c3 because bishop to e5 is a strong move. Why? Because after here bishop e5, I'm threatening checkmate on the g8 square, so you have to do something here. Example, if you played rook to g8 to preventing the checkmate, then rook f to c1 comes. Give me your queen, and after queen to b2, rook a to b1 comes, and after rook to a2, this queen on the a2, it's out of the game. Also, this three pieces is on the queen side doesn't do anything, and all the party is on the king side. The knight will comes to the c6 and then to the e7, threatening the rook on the g8, and the white's position it's more better than the black. So for this season here, after bishop to f4, here basically Carlsen didn't capture the pawn on the c3, and he played queen to c5. And also here, e5 doesn't work because queen to f5 with check, and then the white will capture the pawn in the next move. So for this season here, after bishop to f4, queen to c5 by Carlsen, and now rook f to e1 by Ding Liren. Knight to c4 by Carlsen, and now rook a to d1 by Ding Liren, bringing the rooks to the game. Rook to d8 by Carlsen, and rook to d3 by Ding Liren. Rook to d3, saying to Carlsen, if I offered this pawn on the c3 since the move 14 or 15, but now after rook to d3, this pawn is mine. You will not be able to capture it. And Carlsen says, okay, it's not a problem, it's such a pawn. Look, queen back to e7 by Carlsen, and here a beautiful idea by Ding Liren, and it is knight to c6. Knight to c6, making fall between the queen and the rook, so you have to capture the knight. Bishop capture on c6, and now rook capture on d8, rook capture on d8, and now pawn capture on c6, and Ding Liren by this move get so strong passed pawn on the c file on the 6th ranks. So after pawn capture on c6, knight back to b6 by Carlsen, he trying to covering the queening square, and bishop to e5 by Ding Liren. Bishop to e5, threatening a checkmate from the g7 square. Queen to g5, asking Ding Liren if you want to trade the queens or something like that, but Ding Liren basically pushed c7, and he said, I'm not interested on your offers. c6, the idea, c7, sorry. The idea here, if you want to capture my queen, welcome, I will just capture your rook, and I will bring another queen, and if you count the pieces, you will see the black is down a whole rook. So for this season here, here, after c7, Carlsen here played rook to d5. Rook to d5, threatening the bishop on the e5 with two pieces, and also threatening the queen on the g4, but here basically Ding Liren solved this problem by queen to e4 check. Queen to g6 by Carlsen, asking Ding Liren if you want to trade the queens. Queen to b4, I'm not interested to trading the queens. And now queen to d3 by Carlsen. Queen to d3, I want to play something like queen to d2, threatening this rook and also putting a pressure on the e5 bishop. And also the white still has problems on the back ranks. Example here, if the white isn't interested and he played anything like let's see what, like something like queen to a5, then no, not queen to a5. Something like queen to a3. Let's say rook capture on e5 will be deadly. You cannot capture because queen to d1 will be a checkmate. So for this season here, after queen to d3, basically here Ding Liren pushed h3. h3 to making breathing room for his king on the g1. So after h3, here Carlsen said, let's back to our theme, and it's trading the queens. Come on, Ding Liren, let's trade the queens. But Ding Liren said, unfortunately, I cannot trade the queens. Queen to e4, check by Ding Liren, f5 by Carlsen, and now queen to f4. Queen to f4 still guarding his bishop on the e4. Queen back to d7 by Ding Liren, putting a pressure on the c7 pawn, and now bishop to d4. Bishop to d4, threatening the knight on the b6, which it is the only controller of the queening square. So after bishop to d4, knight back to c8 by Ding Liren, and now queen to g3. Queen to g3, putting a pressure on the g7 square. So this queen always has to keep an eye on the g7 square. So for this season, here after queen to g3, Carlsen here basically played rook to d7, rook to d6. Rook to d6, I want to play rook to c6 and then grab the c7 pawn, and Ding Liren said, do what you want to do. h4. After rook to c6, here basically Ding Liren pushed h5. The idea here, you cannot capture my pawn on the c7, rook capture on c7, because queen to g6 will be deadly. After something like king to g8, then rook capture on e6 comes. Rook capture on e6, I'm threatening rook to e8, checkmate. You will have to sacrifice your queen. And how you'll prevent this? There is no way to prevent this. The only way is sacrifices your pieces by something like knight to d7. So here Carlsen played queen to f7. Queen to f7, preventing queen to g6. And now I'm threatening rook capture on c7. So here Ding Liren basically played bishop to e5, defending his pawn on the c7. Knight to b6 by Carlsen, trying to bring his knight to the game. Rook to a1, threatening the pawn on the a7. Knight to c4, he wants to grab the bishop on the e5. Rook capture on a7 by Ding Liren. Knight capture on e5 by Carlsen. Queen capture on e5 by Carlsen, and here Ding Liren played queen capture on h5. Now here the white has to be careful. Why? Because if he played anything, example like rook to a8, okay, he want to bring a queen, then the black here will play rook to queen to d1, and this will be a draw by threefold repetition. Why? Because after queen to d1, only move you have to play king to h2, and then queen to h5 with check comes again. King to g1, queen to d1 check, king to h2, queen to h5 check again. Also here king to g3 doesn't work because basically the black has queen to g4 check, and after queen back to h2, then queen to h5 comes with check again. So for this season here, the white cannot play anything. Where here? Like rook to a8, but Ding Liren here basically solved this problem by a beautiful idea. Pause the video here for a couple of seconds and try to find the move which Ding Liren played in this position. If you found the move, congratulations, you are so good player. If you didn't find the move, no problem, you are good player too. It's not too hard move to find. The move which Ding Liren played in this position, it is queen capture on g7. Queen capture on g7, the king cannot move to any square, so you have to grab the queen. And after king capture on g7, here basically Ding Liren pushed c8 and he brought a queen. So of course you cannot capture the queen because this move comes with check, and after king to f6, and here basically Ding Liren played queen to d8, and in this position Magnus Carlsen, the world champion Magnus Carlsen, resigned the game. Now why Carlsen resigned the game? Because the black here has two options, alright? If the king goes to the e5, then queen to d4 will be a checkmate, and if the king goes to the g6, then queen to e8 will be deadly. After something like king to g5, still defending the queen, here f4 comes by the white, and after something like king to g4, then rook to g7 with check comes on this king, and if you play something like king to h4, then basically g6 comes with a check. After king to h3 only move, queen capture on h5, will the white will win the queen, and also it will be a checkmate. So for the season here, after queen to d8 in this position, Magnus Carlsen, sorry, just resigned the game. So yeah, this is Liren. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget us by the like and subscribe. Also, you can support us on Patreon. The link is below the video. And yes, you can check out my previous videos, and see you in the next video.